Hey everybody, welcome back to I Know a Guy. If you're new here, my name's Anthony. I'm all about building connections that matter. This podcast is your go-to place for discovering inspiring entrepreneurs, business owners, and professionals, and people just doing cool things. Our mission is to create a community where networking thrives and collaboration sparks opportunities. Today, we're meeting Kelly Meloche, a dynamic storyteller and celebrant with an incredible journey from law enforcement to entrepreneurship and now crafting unforgettable celebrations of life and love. Kelly is also a wedding officiant and author of Leaving Your Light On, Inspirational Stories of Unforgettable Lives, and a professional speaker passionate about connecting people through the power of stories. How are you doing today, Kelly?
I'm wonderful. How are you doing, Anthony?
I'm doing pretty good. We're starting the new
Good.
year off strong. I'm really looking forward to 2025. So I was excited to see hear from you, and I was excited to have you on. You're doing a lot of cool things, and you have a really unique story that I think a lot of people would benefit from hearing. But to start off, where are you calling in from? Where are you located?
I'm located in a little small town called Amherstburg, Ontario, which is right outside of Windsor, Ontario, which is right across from the Detroit, Michigan border.
Okay. Are you a lifer? You been there forever? Are you newer to the area?
This is my forever home. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, what about it keeps you there? What do you do for fun?
Well, you know what? For fun, of course, I have my dog Piper. I used to be an equestrian. I love to travel the world, but the community that I'm in is small and tight knit. And if you've heard the story of it takes a village to raise a child, I raised two wonderful children here, and we're all so wonderfully supportive of each other. The thought of moving away from this is really difficult to do, although I think if Bora Bora called or something like that, I might be maybe coaxed into going, but other than that, my tribe is here.
Yeah, well, summer homes exist, right? Or winter
Yeah,
homes or whatever.
exactly. Yeah.
Just snowbird to Bora Bora.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get that.
Why
Awesome.
not?
Yeah. So, if somebody's never been there, where do you take them for the first time if they're coming to visit?
Oh my goodness. Well, I will say there's nothing monumental about this distinct area, but 4 hours up the highway, we have Toronto. Another couple hours after that, we have Ottawa. Then, of course, there's a quick jaunt eastward. And so we're probably about 3.5 hours from Niagara Falls. So that's the big tourist destination. And you can go there every single day, see it differently, love it even more, one of the miracles of our planet. So that is most likely what people want to see when they come up here.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's something about Canada and then in the U.S. the Midwest where it's like, yeah, it's just a quick John's 4 hours. There's something.
Well, that is truly it. Everybody, I used to be a long time ago a customs officer at the Ambassador Bridge, and it was interesting. First time people coming to Canada, the questions they would ask me, one is, can you say something Canadian? So they would want an A to come out of me sooner or later, and that always does. And then they would say, well, we're just going, for lunch this afternoon. Now, my husband wants to go to New Brunswick, but I really want to see Regina, which are days away by car, and they would think that they're just going for a few hours. So the logistics and the geography, just to make sense to people. And sometimes you would just give them a welcome to Canada pamphlet, knowing that they would figure it out on the way.
Yeah, it's why are things put so far away? I don't know. It's
Yeah,
big.
it's
So,
big. It's very big. Lots of water, lots of land.
yeah, awesome. So, what can you tell us about what you're doing now?
Well, what I'm doing now, it's been a long journey, but I'm what is known as a celebrant. I tell stories for a living. And what that means is when someone passes away, or actually before they pass away, because living funerals are a growing, beautiful trend, but every life deserves to be celebrated, not just at the beginning when a little baby arrives, but every milestone, and most certainly at the end when the full story hopefully has been told, but sometimes the full story isn't told. But the mark of that life benefits everybody for generations to come, so we need to tell it. So when someone passes away, or like I said, before they pass away, if I'm fortunate enough, I speak to the person themselves. If not, I speak to the family and the friends. I learn all about the person. The resume stuff is part of it, but it's just part of it. It's really about our nuances. It's about our heart. It's about the imprint that we've left on people's hearts. It's about the hard lessons that we've learned and the triumphs and, sometimes the secrets that we didn't feel safe enough or vulnerable vulnerable enough to tell that come open. And then at the moment of the celebration of life, I pull all their favorite things together, their music, whatever it is, and we celebrate the life. And I do this for beautiful, 98-year-old grandmothers that have lived a life and seen so many advances, technological and medical, to tragedies, to all the things during COVID that we had to endure where people couldn't attend their parents' funerals because the numbers were so confined. I do it for motorcycle gangs. I do it for just about every walk of life. And there has been nothing in my life that has taught me more, humbled me more, and made me a better person than standing in the space of understanding that we all have beautiful stories and being passionate, so very passionate to be able to tell those stories and encourage people that these stories need to be told.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, that's really incredible. Wide range, 98-year-old grandmothers, a motorcycle gang.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a wide breadth. So what inspired you to transition from law enforcement to becoming a celebrant and storyteller?
Well, you know what? It was kind of a journey. I started in law enforcement, and at one point, now can only see me from the shoulders up, but I'm only 5 feet tall. I became the use of force and tactical communications instructor for the province of Ontario. So that meant little me going in, teaching self-defense moves to those big gorilla type guys. And I've come to learn that every part of my career has found me. I never went looking for it. And that's why I think that we need to be these open vessels and realize that there is this grand plan. No matter what your faith is, we are all connected and these things find us. But I was very entrepreneurial spirited. I think I got that from my dad. And I left law enforcement and I ended up, because I was writing for a small newspaper that had publications in both Ontario and in the United States. It was called The Tranquil Planet at the time. I was writing for this newspaper just for fun. And I had this readership. And one of the conversations I started having was that our Canadian medical system at the time was experiencing horrific wait times. And people were in a lot of pain, and there was so much going wrong from what should have been going right. One time I said to a reader who was a physician in the United States, it's too bad that we didn't have a precedence in Canada that allowed us to seek out private care elsewhere in the world. We're a socialized system. So we don't, well, we pay for our healthcare in taxes, but we don't go to the doctor, we don't cut a check. So I thought it was a great idea for someone else to do. I ended up doing it. So I founded this company and it went first international, then it went global. And through that, I found myself in Australia and South America and Mexico and all over the place helping people. Absolutely fantastic. I am by nature, people don't believe me, but I am shy. And what led to being a celebrant that I didn't know at the time was I was at a conference in Florida and I was in such awe at the quality of speakers and the way they held themselves. And it was just, oh, it was something that, had my jaw dropped. And the moderator said, we have an expert from Canada here that I'd like to invite up to share her thoughts. And I thought, that's great. I'm going to learn so much. And Anthony, it was me. And I was blown away. I was not prepared. I was not dressed for it. I was too short for the podium. I had to stand on my own. But in that moment, I learned that as long as you're passionate, as long as you believe and you know what you're talking about, you can accomplish it. So little old me did that. And then I ended up being a keynote speaker at Caesar's Palace in Vegas and at Simon Fraser University in British Columbia. And all these things started happening. And the one moment where, you hear about imposter syndrome, and I had it like nobody's business. It was when I was at Caesar's Palace and I was invited to a conference that was the most powerful women of the world's conference. And I was invited, and I thought, they got it wrong. I'm just Kelly from Amherstburg, Ontario. But there I had a name tag, I had an invitation, and I got to sit with these women that were some were royalty. And then I realized that we were all the same. We were all connected. We're all cut from the same cloth. Doesn't matter what your tax return says, doesn't matter what you're wearing, just matters what your passion is and how honest you're willing to be with your passion. And I eventually closed that company. I sold it, and I think I was almost discovered for the role of being a celebrant. Local funeral home industry in this area called me in because I was known for my, I guess, grassroots visionary ability to see things outside the box, and they wanted to revamp their image, I guess you'd say. But really, they didn't want to change anything. It's kind of like going to the hairdresser and saying, I want a whole new look, except don't cut my hair, don't color my hair, really don't do anything different, but I want to be different. And so they brought in their head honchos, and I didn't think that we were going to have any sort of a synergy together. And finally, someone said, Kelly, you're meant to be a celebrant. I didn't know what that meant. I love the idea of getting to know the people, of asking the questions maybe they've never been asked, of opening new emotional doors, of giving that space of vulnerability, and people realizing that you don't have to be curing cancer, you don't have to be the richest person in the world, that you have a story. I loved that idea. And so I went for the training. I use very little of the training because I will not show up with the template, but I sit with families and the questions just come and the answers just come. And I spent a lot of time writing the stories. So I was so moved by many of these stories that I ended up writing my book. And it is just a measure, a small measure to show everybody that your story is meant to be told. And that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing. And so, as you mentioned, I'm a wedding officiant as well. And I approach weddings the same way. There's a love story that's meant to be told. And whether it's that first love or maybe you're on your third or fourth wedding, it's a new wedding story. And that deserves to be told at the time that you're making those vows. So it is just a dream come true that I'm given the privilege and the honor to cut through all the masks and the images that we try to display to the world and allow people to be their real authentic selves. And even if that means that they have passed away, that their real authentic self is discovered at that moment.
That's amazing. There's a lot in what you just said that really resonates. All of us kind of being the same and having that imposter syndrome,
Mhm.
as an entrepreneur, and a lot of us as entrepreneurs, we face that every day. It's like, who am I? I'm just from this small town. They must have accidentally put me on the thing. I'm gonna go up and talk. So that's super important. A lot of us, struggle with that. But just what you were talking there at the very end is, what do you think? I imagine you have a lot. But what's a really powerful lesson that you learned from interviewing people for their celebrations of life?
That it is never what you have owned. It is who we are that matters most. And that if you were to take all of your belongings, all of the things that you thought you treasured, your car, your job, your boat, your all of your accomplishments, and then if you were to take all of your arguments, if you were to take all of your disruptions in your life, all of your lessons, everything, and if you can imagine putting it all in a big plastic bag in front of you and sealing it, the reality is that you are who is looking at the bag. And we forget about that we're not defined by what we have. And that is what I have learned, because when that sadness comes that we've lost someone, and sometimes whether it's tragically or whether it's after a full life being lived, it is how we made people feel. And I've realized that when I go, just like when everybody else goes, the arguments that I thought I won won't matter. Everything won't matter. What will matter is the little ripples that I've left in other people's lives that can grow upon. And unless we talk about those, unless we're fully vulnerable to be able to talk about our lessons and our colossal mistakes, our colossal lacks of judgment, our what was I thinking moments, and talk about the people that impacted us most and why, then we will never learn from one another. And that is why it's so important for when people are making their funeral plans to not think that it's noble to say, oh, I don't want anything. Just, tuck me away. I don't want anything. We need that. We need to recognize life. It's what the most intelligent animal kingdom does. They pause. They pause to recognize that one of their pack, one of their tribe, one of their family members has gone. And they pause in reverence of what that life meant to them. And so this work has taught me too, not only to pause when we lose someone, but to pause while we have them and have the conversations and share the love, share the lessons while we have them there and grow from them.
So your book, Leaving the Light On, Inspirational Stories of Unforgettable Lives, who is that written for? Who would really benefit from taking a look at that?
It's written for everyone that thinks that they're just ordinary, that thinks that they don't have a story to tell. Because the lives that I've celebrated in the book, and I could have wrote volumes, and I hope to do it one time, but there's teachers, there's a barber, there is a young man that was extraordinary but lost his battle to fentanyl. There are extraordinary fathers that were girls' dads, and what he did to bring fun. So for those people that are thinking they're just muddling their way through life, they've never been rich, they've never done anything wonderful, you are doing something wonderful. You everyday moments, you are doing something wonderful and meaningful, and you are impacting someone. And if you want to read the book, you will see yourself in these people, and you will realize that you have a wonderful story and it deserves to be told.
Yeah, that's true. Anybody that's had any kind of loss, those are the kind of the things you're thinking about. So kind of putting that to yourself, saying, "Yep, that's the kind of impression that I'm leaving behind too." We kind of have that disconnect where the people that have, passed away in our lives, we might have a thought, "Hey, I really, really remember this one moment that was kind of, on the outside looking in, you wouldn't think much of it, but that's what really stands out to you in that
Yeah.
moment." And then realizing that every day you're doing that same exact thing. So, recognizing that's important. Um, so you've had a long career. You had, a bunch of different things. What are some things that were hard learned lessons along the way, whether it was, going from law enforcement to entrepreneurship to what you're doing now, that others that are trying to get into something similar in the entrepreneur space, that what
Uh,
advice would you give them?
you're not going to sleep. You're you're going to have a lot of 2 a.m. nights. You are going to have to find the level of grit within you and to struggle to believe that you can do this. It's not an easy road, but boy, is it worth it. It is absolutely worth it. It will not go down the lane that you're expecting. You just always have to remain open that crossroads are going to continue to come, as will the mentors. People showed up in my life, and there's that saying is, what if you quit just before the miracle arrives? And really, it does get to that 11th hour where you think you're going to lose your home, you're going to lose your integrity, you are going to lose your mind because this is just so hard. Why am I not collecting that weekly paycheck and just making life easier? We all think that. But the people are going to show up in your life if you're open and looking for them, and the ability to ask for help when you need help, the ability to say I don't know when you don't know. um, as an entrepreneur, especially with my one healthcare business, I think the hardest lesson that I learned was that sometimes you partner with people that don't have your best interests in mind. But what I will say, my secret to success, and when I reflect upon this, is that if you are brutally honest with what you feel you bring to the table, what you feel that you want to bring to the table, but you just don't know how, and that other stuff that you don't even know how to ask for, I believe that that has brought me the most success. Because when I would look at people and say, I don't know how to do this, but I really believe that this is what needs to happen, then other people are confident enough to say, I don't know either, but maybe I can find out. So it is, entrepreneurship isn't for everyone. I think that it's, a wiring that we find in ourselves, and it is a new skin that we find within ourselves. But you never can stop believing in your dream. You wake up every single moment knowing that today I'm going to make at least one solid step towards my dream, and it will come. It will come.
Yeah, that's great advice. So you mentioned partners, finding the right kind of partners. With what you're doing now as a celebrant and everything that you have going on, what are good power partners for you? What does that look like?
Well, you know what? Because I'm independent, I'm called upon by families, and I'm called upon by funeral homes. I'm called upon by venues if they, need a keynote speaker. If we want to learn more about what it is like to celebrate lives, what does a living funeral look like? How do I invite my mom to her funeral? Things like that. So my power partners are the ones that, see the hearts of everybody, and understanding that while we're all here to make a living, if we're working towards a common purpose of what we're doing to create life stories and bring them forward, um, maybe power partners for me, because I don't have widgets or anything like that. But the people that are saying, I want to host a storytelling venue where we all want to stand up and learn from each other and tell our stories. Um, Most often, I think that the best partners for me are the ones that are eclectic in their thinking and are willing to look outside the box and bloom with everybody else.
So it's really great having you on because a lot of people are going to have a lot of, kind of specific questions that a lot of us think about or, haven't got a really a good answer for. So, I mean, just based on earlier in your career, how can somebody get over imposter syndrome?
Oh my goodness. Do you ever? Um, su- I don't want to say success. I was going to say success. I think it's truly taking a quiet moment and realizing this dream inside me is so real. It's so palpable. And why not me? Marianne Williamson also often says, well, she does say, it's not our darkness that scares us, it's our light, it's our strength that we are afraid to step into our glory. But if we do that, if we get rid of the imposter syndrome for small steps at a time, not only are we benefiting ourselves, we're benefiting everybody. So maybe if you can look at this isn't for me, this is for everybody else. I have something to give here and I want to give it. And what can go wrong? What can go wrong if your intentions and your heart is focused in the purest of directions? I don't think anything can go wrong.
Okay. Um, how can I make a celebration of life unique and meaningful?
By removing any dogma, by removing any constraints of maybe we shouldn't do this. Oh, maybe this would be offensive. Oftentimes, when I ask people to, what music would they like? They will immediately go to, well, we have to go to funeral music. That's not the case. That's not the case. I did a service for this great grandmother. She was 97 and she loved disco, just loved it. So whenever her children or grandchildren or great grandchildren or great grandchildren would come over, they would turn on disco and grandma danced. They all danced. So that was the music we played at our celebration of life. And I was so moved because when the first song came on, all of the young kids that were not trapped by this is how we behave at a funeral. It's supposed to be sad. It's supposed to be morose. They got up and they danced. and the whole place. And then the adults got up and danced. So to make a funeral service unique, you take a look at what did we stand for? Did we stand for a great pot of spaghetti at the end of the night? Because maybe we bring that. We bring the best music that we loved. We all come in our favorite slippers, whatever defined the life. So we have to stop pigeonholing this. We have to just open it up and really bloom and understand that our life is finite. We are all leaving. Maybe tomorrow, maybe in 50 years, I don't know. But as much as we enjoy life, when we do get to say goodbye, we need to have every one of our cells tingle because we did it the right way.
Okay. How do you write a memorable tribute for a loved one?
Um, you have to spend a lot of time thinking about it. You have to, some people get hung up because they're not writers. So they feel like they have to channel their, inner poet or whatever. But you have to do it from your personality. I think that that's the greatest thing. A lot of people will do eulogies when I'm hosting a celebration of life. And one of their struggles is I really don't know how to do it. And if you can't put pen to paper in a way that you feel that is good, you just do point forms. But to write the tribute of the person, you have to think of all your senses. When I was with them, do you remember that? Do you remember what your dad's aftershave smelled like? Do you remember what your mom's kitchen used to smell like? Do you remember the way their laugh was? And if you open all of that up and you don't think that you have to compose it to a resume format, then when people leave that celebration of life, they are going to smile and they're going to say, that was them. I felt them there with us.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true. That's the ones that stand out that you'll remember.
Mhm.
Um, so just in, a high level, just so people understand, what does a celebrant do at a celebration of life or a wedding?
Many things. It's not just one thing, and I can't even speak for any other celebrant in the world because I'm sure that everybody has their different approach. Sometimes the celebrant tells the whole entire story and infuses the things that they want to infuse and however they approach it. Sometimes they act more as an MC. Sometimes they work with the families to help them create their moment. And it can almost be like a play. When I do living funerals, it's abundantly different because the atmosphere is so much different. So it really is almost being like the writer and director of a movie. It takes a lot of time. I have not been without tears at many of the services that I have done or writing them. So, as celebrant, you have to know that your heart is going to be in a vice for much of it. And if that's where your heart is, there's no better place to be.
I gotcha. You mentioned something that I hadn't heard of before. What's a living funeral?
Oh, well, if you've ever read the book Tuesdays with Maury, that's the premise of it. The author is Mitch Albom. A living funeral is when someone knows that they're going to die and they don't want a funeral after they've gone. They want to be there. They want to share their words with the people that they're leaving behind. So it is just that, a living funeral, that person is there and they are able to articulate in whatever way they want, whatever the tapestry of their life has brought them to that moment. So they are celebrated in their presence. Sometimes after that, whether it's a week later, a month later, whatever it is, we will do another celebration of life and reflect on when that person was there. But because we have different mechanisms in place where people can choose, given a diagnosis, that at this level of my diagnosis, I am choosing the date of my death. But before that, I want to gather with my loved ones, whether it's a small gathering or a large one. I want to be there and I want to contribute. I want to give back to them what they have given to me. It's really a powerful, powerful experience.
Okay. Is there anything that I missed or failed to ask that you wanted to add?
Boy, I don't know. You do a really good job. You you're very good at what you do. That's part of your story. I don't think so. I think that if there's anything that I want to embark on people, especially like I say, the beginning of this new year, I certainly hope that any resolutions that we're making um, aren't set into the future. People aren't saying, I am going to, that we can say, I am, I am forgiving now. I'm going to live my dreams. I'm not an imposter. I am who I am. I'm so perfectly imperfect. It's not even funny, but this is who I am.
I like that. I like that a lot. How can people find you, find your book, or get a hold of you?
Well, they can find me at my website, www.kellymeloche.com. I'll spell that out, KELLYMELOCHE. So www.kellymeloche.com. My book is available on my website. If you order my book from my website, I will write whoever it is a little love letter inside and send it off to you. If you need it lickety split, then you can go on to Amazon and they will have it to you in prime time. And or you can email me direct at kelly@kellymeloche.com. And even the phone number 519-567-9976.
Perfect. If anybody would like to get a hold of Kelly, absolutely reach out to her, have that conversation, read that book, just look into it. There's a lot there that I didn't know existed, right? And you're gonna walk away knowing more than what you did before. So absolutely reach out. If you're a little bit more shy and you prefer an introduction, just ask. I'm more than happy to introduce you as well. Otherwise, I'm gonna put all those links in the description so we don't have to hunt for them. Make it as easy as possible for everybody. If anybody out there would like to be interviewed as well, feel free to reach out to me. I'll have my link tree in the description as well. Let's grab a time and have a conversation. But Kelly, I really appreciate you coming on, sharing your story, and kind of going into some details about kind of what you're doing now. Because, like I said, a lot of people don't know this kind of stuff exists, and it's kind of interesting to see what you've been able to do and how it's affected a lot of folks' lives. Because there's a lot of us out there that they didn't know this was an option, and it's probably gonna be a good boon to them. So I really
Yeah,
appreciate you taking the time and having that conversation with us. But let's all get out there and meet some more people. All right.
perfect.